Happy Sunday, everybody. I wanted to come on here and talk to you all a little bit about something that I've talked to you all about before, but I thought I'd talk about again is cleaning trauma. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. So this morning I got up a little early, to straighten up my house and then, watched a little bit of Wife Swap. And I love Wife Swap, especially the old versions. But of course, they have a good old formula that works, which is a woman who is extremely clean going over to a woman's house who is not clean at all. And I think cleanliness, cleaning can be a form of abuse, in both extremes, whether you're too clean and whether you're just completely living in filth and squalor. And filth and squalor, at least when I was coming up and doing my training, filth and squalor is enough to have your children removed from your home and possibly even lose your parental rights. I haven't done that kind of work in a long time with kids and families, so I don't know, policies around that have changed. I don't think that they have too much, at least, from where I did my training. But when you're growing up and when you have children that grow up in filth and squalor, and that is a form of abuse and neglect, severe abuse and neglect of your children, to have your children exposed to that. And to me, it's enough to warrant a Child Protective Services investigation at the very least, along with requirements that parents must meet in order to retain or have the custody of their children back. And it's very interesting. I've seen, I don't really see it anymore because it's not the type of content I engage with, but I saw very early on, and I've even maybe reported some videos where parents were comfortable posting squalid conditions for their children, and that's not okay. It's not okay to post that. And it's also an interesting phenomenon, even of itself, for people to feel okay with, welcoming the World Wide Web into their home, which is squalid. It's never okay to allow your children to run around in filth, and you need to seek out resources if that is a possibility, because I'm sure there's somebody who's watching my videos that may be thinking that, that might be me. You need to seek out resources, home cleaning services, your village, so people to come over and take your children for a little bit so that you can get your house in order. Your children deserve to grow up in a clean, loving home. Dirt is not loving. Filth is not loving. And I'll tell you, as a therapist who's worked with adult children, a lot of them have a lot of trauma around growing up in filth and squalor, and things like that. And so they're almost OCD about having their home clean, and, they'll make sure that everything is neat and kempt and put away in its place. So that's one way that lifelong trauma can manifest, and it doesn't matter. A lot of times, they just cannot rest because they still have nightmares and flashbacks about growing up in filthy conditions. And also, about being ridiculed by friends, peers, or even other adults about being filthy, or being, other people feeling sorry for them, buying them clothes or other things like that. There is a significant amount of trauma around that. The other end of the spectrum, where you have parents that are hyper clean, can be just as abusive. And how I see that manifest, particularly in parents who are very narcissistic and they're all about their image, is that their only way of I don't even know that I would call it connecting, but the only way that they have a relationship with their children is to basically turn their children into worker bees, where children work 24 hours a day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. You come home, you clean, you maintain, you're doing some type of work in that home to basically live and breathe. And that's all you are to them is a worker bee, a slave essentially, who needs to clean up or do a chore or do a job. You're not allowed to have any friends, any social life, any child activities. They don't really see you as an individual. You just need to get in there and clean, 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 or do that chore. And it's even worse when, and I've seen this and counseled this a number of times too, when your parent maybe gets remarried or has another girlfriend or boyfriend, and their boyfriend is lazy, and doesn't do anything. And so your parents are more overbearing on you, the children, who, you know, than they are for their partner. Their expectations are 10 times as high, and their partner knows this, may add insult to injury by dirtying up the place, by throwing you under the bus to get you chewed out even more. Parents can be overly punitive in an effort, to get their child to succumb to them, to bend to their will. And as a result, these children never experience a childhood. They never experience being seen. They don't experience any sort of connection with their parents. And they learn to become performative for their parents' approval, meaning that they have to do something in order to get, validation, recognition, any sort of attention or kind words from their parents. They may also have trauma around cleaning as well when they get older, meaning that they actually don't like to clean, or cleaning just, there's like this negative, like emotional experience associated with cleaning. And so it actually becomes hard for them to clean. And they may continue to struggle with shame as a result of that for a number of years. Depression can also play another part in that, where, they struggle with depression due to their upbringing being so iron fist, so much of an iron fist, ruled with so much of an iron fist. They may struggle with depression, which also may affect their motivation to clean or to take pride in their space or even of themselves. A lot of times, small acts of cleaning, every day can help to alleviate stress and depression. So anyhow, I hope that this helps. Let me know how you guys feel about it and what your experience is with cleanliness, squalor, and things of that nature. But I do think attention should be called to both extremes. And I know a lot of times that can be hard because, parents are very dead set in their ways. And I'm not sure where it's become okay to accept squalor, but you hear a lot of people that are defensive and become downright nasty in protecting those kinds of conditions. But there does need to be a happy medium in where your children can feel safe and loved, feel prideful. You guys can have people over, and people feel comfortable being over in your home, eating out of your home, and things like that. Because, if you have children, they deserve to have their friends over and things like that. Cleanliness can also be a form of protection as well. Just as a side note, I remember when I was coming up and I had friends in school, and they would want me to come over. There were certain friends that my mother would not allow me to, engage with outside of school because she said, no, they're not clean enough for you to go over. And so when you're not clean, there's, there's things that may come from that, such as diseases, bugs, unsanitary practices around food and things like that. And those would always be things that she would talk about. And she would be like, Natalie, I don't think that's a good idea, just because of that. And it took me a little while because, when I grew up, I got older, of course, and I could see exactly what she's talking about. But that is a form of love, and that does reflect back on your children's peers. It does affect their ability to socially connect as well. So hope that helps.